and then next another mutation would happen, and I don't know, 1,000 years later another one would happen. Okay, for example, a change in the size and the hoof of the modern horse, remembering we've had a look at that, that it changed kind of gradually over time, and we've got evidence from the fossil record for this. However, there are scientists who argue that it also can happen through punctuated equilibrium. So there are long periods of stability, but they are interrupted by during rapid evolution changes. The periods of stability are well-suited organisms have no reason to evolve until there's a large environmental change. Okay, so it could be a meteor strike. It could be a really quick change in the environment that causes selection pressures to shift. We do have gaps in the fossil record. Okay, so when we're looking at those fossils over time, there are areas where there are huge gaps and then a big change is going to happen, and we don't have any of the in-between species along the way. So gradualism is the older idea. Darwin was one of the originators of the concept. He did recognise, however, that not all species evolved at the same rate. He said, "I think the case must be that one generation should have as many living as now. To do this and to have as many species in the same genus requires extinction. Thus, between A plus B, the immense gap of relation, C plus B, the finest graduation, B plus D, rather greater distinction. Thus genera would be formed, bearing relation to ancient types with several extinct forms." So he's talking about differences, and you can kind of see in this diagram here, and how those differences would happen over time. And he thinks that there must have been something like extinction, okay, that means that those changes happen more quickly. Punctuated equilibrium was proposed by paleontologist Niall Eldridge and Stephen Jay Gould in 1972, so it's a much more recent theory, although it probably doesn't look too recent from that particular picture that's there. Richard Dawkins, not sure if you know about him, he's a critic of the theory. He's a critic of quite a lot of theories as well, and fun fact, one of my students once publicly argued with him about whether evolution was true or not in London. TOK questions. What evidence are the two theories based on? Gould and Dawkins. Dawkins wrote a book called The Selfish Gene. They've both become popular writers. How does this affect the weight of their opinion in the scientific community or in the wider community? Bit of a TOK thing for you to think about. Okay. I think I'm going to pause this video because it's getting a bit long. Hello, welcome back. This is just a second video of the speciation and gene pools video. Okay, so far we have learned that cells contain two homologous sets of chromosomes. So normally, sorry, my dog's getting a bit impatient. We know that diploid cells have two N chromosomes. During meiosis, we can have haploid cells with just one N. But there's more to it than that. You can have triploid cells, all right, with 3 copies of each chromosome. You can have tetraploid cells with 4 copies of each chromosome. You can go on to pentaploid, hexaploid, septaploid, octaploid, for etc. Okay? This is much more common in plant species than it is in animal species. Okay, in animal species it tends to result in mutations, or you could talk about genetic diseases or non-disjunction diseases like Down syndrome, okay? But in plant species, there's no real disadvantage to it. Okay, so how does polyploidy happen? Tammy, stop it, go down. When non-disjunction occurs during meiosis in humans, an individual can end up with an extra chromosome or a missing chromosome, so that's not new information. We do know about that. Okay, but total non-disjunction, is when one of the two cells produced during meiosis 1 gets all of the chromosomes. So instead of the individual sister chromatids, the original homologous pairs not separating. Okay, so if you have a condition like, sorry, I can't concentrate because my dog. If you have a condition like Down syndrome, during anaphase, okay, the chromosomes wouldn't have separated from each other in one case. All right. What this is talking about is none of the chromosomes, the sister chromatids, separating from each other. So they all end up in one of the zygotes. If that was to happen in humans, there would not be a viable fetus afterwards. It wouldn't grow. Okay. But in plant cells, it can. So this results in 2N, so diploid daughter cells from meiosis instead of the usual 4N daughter cells. Polyploidy, much more common in plant species, all right? They lack separate sexes and they're capable of asexual reproduction or self-pollination. So it isn't something that prevents pollination and fertilization. Moving on. Tetraploid offspring cannot mate with diploid organisms, okay? The triploid do tend to be infertile because then in their processes of reproduction, there are 3 chromosomes and they can't be separated, okay? But speciation has occurred when you have a tetraploid or you have a polyploid situation. It is classed as a new species, okay? As we've said, it doesn't really happen in animals so much. It's a great source of speciation amongst plants. It can lead to increased size, resistance to disease, and overall vigour. It's something that happens by accident. So in the same way that a mutation happens accidentally, in a random way, this happens at random, but it can be something that then causes an advantage to those species. So the fact that they can then reproduce themselves means that those chromosomes are going to be passed on. Okay? Many agricultural plants are polyploid, for example, wheat, due to having bigger fruits, seeds, and storage organs. Okay, an example that you need to know about, chromosome number in the genus Allium. So Allium is the onion family. Okay, so a swift example of this is the onion that has 16 chromosomes. Okay, but the polyploidy version of that are leeks that have got 32 chromosomes. And if you follow this link, it's going to the Bio Ninja link. It's quite a good article and it gives you a lot more examples within this family of the different types of, different examples of polyploidy. Okay, so that's it for that video. Sorry for the dog. I'll be having swift words with her once I've stopped. Thank you. Bye-bye.